We the people in order to create a more perfect union. 221 years ago, a group of men gathered with these simple words and launched America's improbable experiment in democracy. The document they produced was eventually signed, but ultimately unfinished. It was stained by this nation's original sin of slavery, a question that divided the colonies and brought the convention to a stalemate until the founders chose to allow the slave trade to continue and leave any final resolution into future generations. Of course, the answer to slavery's question was already within our Constitution, a Constitution that had at its very core the ideal of equal citizenship under the law, a Constitution that promised its people liberty and justice, and a union that could and should be perfected over time. And yet, words on a parchment would not be enough to deliver slaves from bondage or provide men and women of every color and creed their full rights and obligations as citizens of the United States. What we needed were Americans in successive generations who were willing to do their part through protest and struggle on the streets and in the courts, through civil war and civil disobedience, and always at great risk, to narrow that gap between the promise of our ideals and the reality of their time. I chose to run for presidency at this moment in history because I believe deeply that we cannot solve the challenges of our time unless we solve them together. Unless we perfect our union by understanding that we may have different stories, but we hold common hopes. That we may not look the same and we may not have come from the same place, but we all want to move in the same direction towards a better future for our children and grandchildren. Within the white community, the path to a more perfect union means acknowledging that what ails the African American community does not just exist in the minds of Black people. That the legacy of discrimination and current incidents of discrimination, while less overt than in the past, are real and must be addressed. Not just within our words, but with deeds. By investing in our schools and in our communities, by enforcing our civil rights laws and ensuring the fairness in our criminal justice system. It requires all Americans to realize that your dreams do not have to come at the expense of my dreams. That investing in the health, welfare, and education of Black and brown and white children will ultimately help America prosper. In the end, then, what is called for nothing more, nothing less than what all the world's great religions demand. That we do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Let us be our brother's keeper. Scripture tells us, let us be our sister's keeper. Let us find that common stake we all have in one another and let our politics reflect that spirit as well. It is where we start. It is where our union grows stronger. And as so many generations have come to realize over the course of 221 years since a band of patriots signed that document in Philadelphia, that is where the perfection begins.